Good morning. This is Wave 3 meteorologist Brian Good filling in for Lauren Jones, who's under the weather today. Today we are talking about storm talk, not snow talk. Kind of a change of pace for once, isn't it? Interesting setup as we head into the end of the week here. And next week we'll kind of touch base on that too. There is actually a little bit of snow to talk about. Take it back. There will be a little bit. I'll get to that part in a second, though. Let's break down this morning. Boy, it was cold out there. Temperatures here in the city dipped down to about 21 degrees. 29 is the current temperature as of 10 o'clock this morning. And we'll rise about another 10 to 15 degrees, it looks like, for the afternoon. We got very dry air, so that heats up fast. Dry air heats up a lot faster than moist air. So with full sun today, we should have no problem climbing into the 40s, certainly. Okay, on the regional scope, you see nice and quiet. No problems. Cloud-free, in fact, over the area. This is going to be our headache, though, as we head into later on for tomorrow night, especially into Friday. And then there's another system, which is even more important. It's not even showing up a map, really. It's way back here to the west. That's really going to impact us. And it's going to be a main concern we're going to have this winter Friday night. Let me show you the setup we have. We've got two low pressures coming our way. The first one's going to develop in the Plain States, and it's going to move across with the front moving through as we head into Thursday night and early Friday. And then Friday night and early Saturday, this is the kicker. This has been shown up the past few days on the models. This is a very potent low pressure. It's forecast to develop late Friday night and early Saturday. Now, the models are varying on the intensity of it and the track. Some take it way to the south. Some try to take it a little more to the north. So this is the zone of uncertainty right now on the track, anywhere from Indianapolis all the way down to just north of Knoxville. The trend has always been this season to take the low pressures more north as we get closer in time, and that's exactly what the NAM model is trying to do. Do think a track across southern Indiana is a little more likely than it would be across Tennessee. That is going to have great impact on two things. One, a track to the north would certainly mean the potential is there for strong storms to develop in the southern part of that track, and if it were to go to the south, that would bring more of a wintry threat potentially into northern Kentucky, which is the last thing we want to talk about. So let's go with the most likely scenario here, and that would likely be a track to our north. Now, the Storm Prediction Center already has, when the low develops, the first low really kicks up Friday. It's going to cause the potential here for some severe weather. This will be late Thursday night and early Friday. This is the next outlook here is more for late Friday night and very early Saturday. That's what I put Saturday on the listing because it's mainly going to be the midnight time frame to about 4 a.m. on Saturday that's going to be most concerning. You can see it mainly includes southern Kentucky and mainly south of the parkways. It does include those of you across southern Grayson, Hart, parts of Greene, and parts of Adair. I think, though, they're going to end up moving this risk a little further to the north. And let me explain why. Let's start with Futurecast. First off, in the short term, no problem. Sunshine today. Temperatures will actually warm up into the 40s. Now, tonight's going to be a reverse of what we've been used to. I think we're going to drop to about 34 degrees around 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. But then look what happens as we head toward sunrise. We warm up pretty fast. It's got a strong southerly flow here and cloud cover on top of that. So I think it actually is going to be a pretty quick rise here for the overnight period as far as temperatures go compared to what we've seen the past couple of mornings. And there could be some light showers. Wouldn't rule that out as that warm surge pushes in. The best chance for that will be north of Louisville for Thursday morning. We got some dry air to overcome, so it's going to take a while to get some of these raindrops to the ground. That's where I'm only thinking maybe just some light sprinkles or maybe a brief shower as that warm surge moves into the area. Now, as we get into the afternoon hours on Thursday, again, the best chance for anything to fall from the sky looks to be mainly north of Louisville. And if we get any sunshine, we'll easily climb into the low 60s. All right, now I've got 60 for a high on Thursday for tomorrow. I'm tempted to raise it up to the low 60s because data is coming in more and more to indicate that we may see a dry punch in the afternoon that would allow us not only see some gusty winds in the afternoon, but certainly go above the guidance that we have. The models have been running really cool this season. So if they're forecasting temperatures in the upper 50s to around 60, it's usually a better bet to go higher. So I got a feeling that for the midday show coming up, I'm going to raise those numbers up a little bit. Now, the first front moves through. Thursday night and Friday. It looks pretty wet as we get into the morning commute on Friday. But look at the temperatures Friday morning. I mean, not far from 60. It's going to feel like bath water in a way outside as far as how the feel to the temperature will be. Very warm, relatively speaking, for early on Friday, but it will be damp and wet and windy. So kind of a sloppy start to the day on Friday. Here's going to be the kicker for the afternoon hours on Friday, and it will play a huge role in how things go Friday night. It is showing temperatures ranging from upper 60s to the south to mid 50s across the north. Obviously, because the RPM, which is our in-house model, is struggling with the track of that low pressure. It's trying to shift it on this latest run a little more to the south, which would keep the main warm air to the south and the cooler air moving closer to Louisville. Again, I think the track is going to be a little further to the north. With that in mind, that will likely mean temperatures around 70 are reachable, and that could take us all the way up to areas of I-64 as we get into the afternoon. If we get that, that will then set the stage for that little low pressure I was showing you, the little potent little low that's going to move in Friday night and Saturday. We'll see that move in around midnight to about 4 a.m., and the speed will highly vary here, so keep that in mind. So this is just an early guess. But notice the shape it's taking. You can see the low pressure with it. You got a warm front in a way, and you got the cold front. So it's kind of what we call a mesoscale convective complex in a way. Is the way it's showing up here on the feature on the radar. And this would likely mean the warm sector. This would be your best zone for severe weather. And I think that's pretty on target. I think there's a good chance we could see that warm punch all the way into I-64, which would include Louisville, and that would put our Kentucky counties under the threat for severe weather. So while the severe risk right now is to the south, I have a feeling they're going to match it up a little bit better to the models, which would push that threat a little further north as we get further in time. Could be wrong, but that's early guess the way it's looking to me that we usually see in these kind of setups. This means Southern Indiana has the best chance to stay just cool rain. This is going to impact, by the way, if you're traveling back from the UK U of L game Friday night, you're going to run into this mess. So heads up, if you got plans to travel back and forth on the same night, my advice right now, looking at the models, you may want to plan on staying the night in Indianapolis and aim for with 65 because it could be pretty rainy. It may not be severe weather for your ride home, but very heavy rain potentially, and that could just make for a sloppy ride. So we'll keep an eye on that, so stay tuned. Just keep that in the back of your mind as you're planning out your Friday night and early Saturday. And we'll keep a track on the severe weather potential. High winds will be the main issue, even some hail. And yes, there is a small tornado threat, certainly with this kind of a setup. The wind fields the way they are, you cannot roll out tornadoes in this setup across Kentucky, so we'll watch that, and especially being late at night. Instability obviously will be cut down because it is going to be overnight. That's always the case around here. We don't have a lot of the heating from the sun. That may be a helping factor for us in keeping severe risk down just a little bit, but the wind fields are pretty strong, so it's not nothing to ignore, certainly. Now, here's the other side to that, is the northern side of this low pressure is likely to have snow with it. The NAM model is going crazy as the low deepens across southern Missouri and tracks across Indiana. Now, I can only see out to 10 p.m. on Saturday. It's just going bonkers with heavy snow on the northern track. Right now, the way it's looking with that track, the best chance to see any type of snowfall is going to be in this zone north of the low. Though I would not rule out our southern counties of Indiana here, or our northern counties in our viewing area, could see some type of a mixture before this ends, whether it's a few snowflakes or even some sleet very early on Saturday morning before this comes to now. I wouldn't rule it out, but I stress, if that low shifts more to the south, well, then you know what I'm trying to lead to. All right, now, next week, very interesting setup here. The models are not agreeing entirely, but the GFS has been very consistent, so that's why I think it's worth mentioning. I think we're going to have a pretty strong low moving in as we into next Wednesday and Thursday, and that means one heck of a warm-up next week. Temperatures in the 70s, quite likely in this kind of a setup, but with that low, where it's forecast to be on the GFS, would mean another potential strong storm scenario, if not a severe weather outbreak. And look at the date. That date should seem awfully familiar to you guys. Not trying to say it's a hint of what's going to come. It's just coincidental that it's coming up on that date, and it's not good news because we have a lot of events going on next week in remembrance of the 1974 outbreak, and we don't want actual severe weather to mess all that up. So we'll watch that system. It's a week away. I'm not trying to hype it up or anything like that. I'm just going to give you a heads up that there's a stronger storm potentially next week that could give us not only a warm-up, but maybe more thunderstorms. So the pattern just remains very, very active. Lots of ups and downs, and we're going back and forth. We're getting whiplash here. But our main concern is not really going to be the one for Thursday night and early Friday. I think it's going to be just typical rain and some thunder. It's the Friday night, early Saturday. Got to nail down that track of that low. That will highly determine our threat for severe weather and heavy rain, and, of course, those of you coming back from the game. So kind of just a messy forecast the next few days. Expect lots of changes here because the data is coming in, and it's still waffling as it comes in. And so we'll have to keep adjusting the high temperatures, low temperatures. All that is subject to change greatly based on the tracks of these low pressures the next couple of days. So there you have it. A lot to talk about. It's getting busy all of a sudden after a quiet day today, but at least it's quiet today. So my advice is get outside and enjoy it. Even though it's going to be cool, enjoy it. All right, I'll see you today at midday. Kevin will have more today beginning at 5.